Welcome to Part 5, where we will talk about the developmental checklist and how to make ratings for all of your students. You are required to have evidence before you make a rating in the following 3 domains: personal social development, language and literacy, and mathematical thinking. You will still make checklist ratings in all of the other domains. So why are checklist ratings so important? This is where we really determine how our children are developing. It's going to help us be very intentional and use our assessment data to plan instruction. Let's look at the ratings used in work sampling. There are 3 main ratings that are used most of the time: not yet, in process, and proficient. The other 2 ratings that are used in special circumstances are NA, which is not applicable, and DNO, which means did not observe. This is what the developmental checklist looks like in work sampling online. You see the domain at the top, personal and social development. You see those functional components, and under each one are the P4 indicators. You also see those 5 ratings that you will make for each individual indicator. So let's talk about the meaning of each of those ratings. Not yet means the skill or behavior has not been demonstrated. Many teachers get very confused about this rating. What this means is that you have really tried to teach your children this particular skill and they are unable to do it. They cannot demonstrate it. In process means it is still emergent, so they are not demonstrating it consistently. Many of our pre-K children are quite inconsistent, and you may find many ratings being in process. Proficient means the skill, knowledge, or behavior is firmly there, and they know how to do it. It does not mean they are perfect or they never make a mistake, but you know that they have that understanding. If they are demonstrating it consistently, go ahead and mark them proficient. There are lots of rumors out there about should you wait till later in the year to mark children proficient? And the answer is no. You will have some children in your classroom that enter in your classroom in August, and they are already proficient at certain skills. You may have a child who can already read. Look at those reading indicators and go ahead and mark them proficient after you have uploaded some evidence of that. NA can be used when the child has an IEP or to rate the ELL indicators. So I'm only going to talk about the IEP right now. We'll talk about ELL indicators in just a little bit. If you have a child that has an IEP, you want to look at that specific domain where they have their IEP. Work sampling deems it unfair to rate them on a standard when they have that special need. So for instance, if you have a child who is physically disabled, you would look under the physical development, health, and safety domain, and on those indicators, you would rate them in A because they are not applicable to this child. When you are writing the narrative summary report, you would simply go by their IEP goals to determine how the child is developing. DNO is often used when a child has excessive absences or might enroll the child later in the year. So for example, if a child comes to you in October, you can't possibly teach and assess everything that you've done in August and September. So you will rate all of the indicators that you are comfortable rating, and you will use DNO on the ones that you feel like you never got an opportunity to teach that child. In general, the expectation is that you will rate all indicators for every child using the 3 main ratings, unless you have special circumstances. So let's practice. We have this indicator under LLD3, understands purposes for writing. I'm going to give you just a minute to read that on the screen. Now, let's take a look at this video. We're going to see Jake. See how you think you would rate Jake under that indicator for understands purposes for writing.
When they did, when they what else?
Strawberries.
When they strawberries and what else?
Milk and cheese.
When they milk and cheese, what else?
Spaghetti.
When they spaghetti, what else?
Taco stuff.
When they taco stuff, what else?
Bananas.
When they bananas, what else?
More potatoes.
When they more potatoes, what?
Lettuce.
Yeah.
And tomatoes.
When they lettuce and tomatoes, what
Yep.
else?
I think that's it.
No, it ain't. We got some more.
What?
More. What else?
I think we got, I don't know what else you need.
What else do you need, my daddy?
All right, that was pretty cute. So think about that rationale that we read, understands purposes for writing. How would you rate Jake? Not yet, in process, or proficient? Lots of people think Jake is in process because his writing is not really quite there. What I want you to think about is, again, we have to all go by that same rationale and what that means. And handwriting is not part of it. Jake clearly understands that what is said can be written down. So again, as the lead teacher, you will determine how to rate Jake. Is he in process or is he proficient? Some people want more information. When it comes to work sampling, it is just collecting a sample of evidence, such as this. You would know much more information about Jake by being in the classroom with him. You may know that he's writing on Post-its all the time when he's making notes of things you said need to be written down. You would have a lot more information about him personally. So again, it is your decision whether you're going to rate him in process or proficient. So let's take a look at how to create a checklist and make ratings in work sampling. We're going to go to that middle column where it says Guidelines and Checklists, and you would click on New Checklist. Next, you would select a student, and then we're going to choose the Physical Development, Health, and Safety domain. Notice you see here in period 1, that's how many indicators need to be rated. So there's a nice little quick view showing I've not made any checklist ratings yet. So I'm going to click there on the 0 out of 7, and it's going to bring me to the Physical Development, Health, and Safety domain for read. So let's look at that very first indicator under gross motor that says moves with increased balance and control. The first thing you need to do is click on that question mark under guidelines. That's going to give us that rationale. Remember we looked at that in the P4 guidelines earlier in another module. So here you see what the expectation is with moving with increased balance and control. It says that they can run more smoothly than at younger ages and hop on each foot several times and climb up and down stairs. So think about that child, then you can make a rating. Because remember, evidence is not required for this domain. So knowing Reed and how physical he is, I'm going to rate him proficient. As you continue to make ratings on each of these indicators and you scroll farther down, you'll see a place to make comments at the bottom of each domain. These are what we call checklist comments. This is a huge time saver. What you will learn is if you will just write 1 or 2 sentences that describe the child's overall development in that particular domain, it will give you some individualized comments then that you can pull into your narrative summary report, which is a big time saver, and we will show you later how to do that. An example of a checklist comment might be something like this. Reed enjoys outside play, going up and down the stairs to the slide and running on the playground with friends. He cuts well with scissors and uses writing tools to write his name. So this might be something that you include as a checklist comment, and we'll learn later where that pulls in the narrative summary. Watch this video now to learn how to make checklist comments.
So when you're making ratings in your checklist and you come across a piece of evidence that you feel is significant to share as part of your narrative summary report, you can highlight it, click Control-C to copy, then at the bottom of the screen, put your cursor in the comments box and click Control-V to paste. Now, when you're writing your narrative summary report, that comment will appear on the right-hand side under Checklist Comments. You can add it to the narrative by clicking Add Comment, and you can always click in the text box to edit the wording.
Take a moment and pause this video to go ahead and make checklist ratings in the domain of physical development, health, and safety for all of the children in your class. Before we end this module, I want to show you a couple of things on the developmental checklist overall screen. Once you've created a checklist for each child, when you go under Manage Checklists, you can see what percentage completion you have for each child. This is a great way to determine if you're keeping up with your ratings. Remember, those ratings are used to inform our planning. So it's very important to make checklist ratings. How often? Weekly is what our IQ guide says. So see here, you can see some of my ratings are at 68%, 47%, 36%. Know that about a third of the way through the semester, you should have about a third of your ratings completed. Halfway through the semester, make sure all of your children have at least 50% of their ratings. I hope this has helped you understand the purpose of the developmental checklist and how to make ratings for your students.